The deal almost fell through. The owner is suing everybody. We don't know what's going to happen next. It was a nightmare. Hey everybody, my name is Michael Reyes and I'm the team leader of the Reyes team, and we just closed maybe the worst deal of the year. For sure, by far the worst deal of the year. And this is just a quick lesson as homeowners, your rights and your abilities, and then also buyers on just trying to really get prepared for the worst, right? We just closed a deal where honestly, it looked like it was falling through the cracks so many different times. It was an emotional roller coaster because the seller was fighting everybody that she thought was getting in her way of closing the home, starting with the HOA. Her home was located in an area that had a homeowners association, and she had removed trees in her yard without the permission of the homeowners association. And as many of you know, when you live with an HOA, homeowners association, they have rules, regulations, CC&Rs, things that you have to abide by. And if you don't, you typically get fined and you have to pay those fines. Well, she was told that she couldn't remove those trees, and now she was going to have to replace them and pay a fine. She fought that and she lawyered up. She took them to court and she lost. And now not only did she have to pay the fine for the replacement of the trees, but now she was on the hook for the attorney fees that the HOA incurred. And she was ordered to pay those as well, unbeknownst to us. And when I say us, I mean my team and the buyer that we had brought to her home, the only buyer that made an offer, the only buyer that liked the home. We had the buyer, and they accept our offer, and they did not disclose any of this to us. And some of you might be thinking, well, hey, isn't this part of your job to find things out? Yes. When we got the HOA package, every time you sell a home, when you live in a homeowners association, there's a package that the HOA provides, and it really shows everything. It shows their financial standing. It shows any liens. It shows any lawsuits that occur. And it also discloses meeting minutes as well. And these packages are hundreds of pages. There's so many things to go through. And by far, the number one thing that we've come across is financial information or legal information that may prevent a buyer from purchasing the home. If there's any issue in those regards, a bank will not approve a buyer to purchase a home. And we looked through all those documents. There was nothing there indicating that the buyer would not be able to purchase the home because of any financial issues or legal abilities. However, in that package, this homeowner, we did not receive the meeting minutes of the HOA. They were gone. And it was very confusing. We didn't know, hey, where are the meeting minutes at? Now, and we've never come across an issue where the meeting minutes disclose something that would be relevant to our transaction. Everything else is always in the financial information of what's going on. And so after asking for the meeting minutes, and them not giving it to us, we decided, hey, we'll just continue on with the deal because those meeting minutes really won't change anything on the buyer's capability to close the deal, which turned out to be true. However, we found out at the close, or approaching a week from closing the deal, that the seller was refusing to sign her closing documents because on there was the bill to pay the HOA's attorney. She had not yet paid. And she was saying it was unlawful. It's illegal for them to do so. She can settle, that's a personal matter. She wanted to settle it, pay it on her own terms, get a payment plan and do this and do that. And so she was refusing to sign those documents because that fee was on the sale of the home. It was going to get paid once she sold the home. Now, listen, she was making $700,000 in pocket once she sold that home. And this fee was only about $6,000, which still it's a lot of money, but she felt it was wrong. Again, we did not know this was happening until the last week. We didn't get those meeting minutes because in those meeting minutes, it shows the HOA discussing this legal matter that they had for the past 6 months, 7 months. And the problem is our buyer, we're a week out from closing. So our buyer was in a rental and had lined up movers, had lined up packers. Their home was packed. They were renting their current place. So they informed their owner that they would no longer be in the property. They were vacating. They had rented it out again, or, the owner had rented it out to somebody else who was supposed to move in. Shortly after our clients moved out, they were going to clean it and do all these things. Now we find out that this thing may not close on time because the owner is refusing to sign those final documents. Oh man, it was incredible. She lawyered up again. She was trying to fight it. She was asking us to give her more time so she could fight this. And so our buyers, asking them to hold on before they move in, it was impossible. We couldn't do that because what was at risk? The family that we were representing had everything lined up to move out. And if they didn't move out, they would be incurring who knows what kind of costs where they would move to, if they would be able to stay in that home. And if they were, whoever rented it out, what kind of domino effect would that have? Complete mess, absolute complete mess. The agent lost all contact. Her realtor lost contact with her. She would refuse to pick up his phone calls, refuse to talk with him. He was talking with us saying, hey, there's nothing I can do. I'm, not in control anymore. She was being completely refusing to come in and schedule any sign off until she sued them again and got this squared away outside of court. And there was just no time for that. In the meantime, our buyers are freaking out. What are we going to do? What's plan B? Is there a plan B? Oh man, where are we going to live? What's it going to cost us? I mean, there's a lot of concern and worry, and every day that goes by, we have no clue what is going to happen. It was, the absolute worst deal that we've had all year long. Okay. So a lot of stress on all sides, everybody involved. So with that said, what is the lesson learned? The lesson learned here was, again, we look for, when we represent a buyer, we look for any financial information with the HOA that would prevent the buyer from purchasing the home. And in this case, it did not exist. But what we did learn was, even the meeting minutes might be hiding something that we need to know. Even though our buyer could still close on time, our buyer could still, do what they did, the seller was still hiding something from us that was material to the transaction. Which legally means when you represent a buyer, when you find out new information like that, our buyer could have backed away from the deal without any financial consequence in regards to the deal. They have a deposit, 40, 50, 60, depending on the price of the home. Sometimes, $80,000. Just depending on the price, typically 3%. And if the buyer doesn't perform, that money is at risk. The seller can keep that money and still sell their home. Well, in this scenario, our buyer was not at risk because we found out new information, right? So financially, there was no risks there, but all the financial risk and emotion was on the domino effect. So big headache, right? So again, no financial consequence to the transaction itself, but really, the stuff that matters most in regards to people's lives. People's lives were now being affected negatively, our buyers, right? Which we hate to see that. So the meeting minutes can be really important. They can be very mundane and extremely boring 99.9% of the time. However, this 0.01% of the time, this one time, provided material fact to our transaction. And then also with sellers, if you live in an HOA, and most HOAs around here, they are able to govern, not however they wish, but whatever laws, CC&Rs they have in place. If you get fined for violating one of those laws, it is going to be an uphill battle to try to prove that it's unlawful for whatever rule they have, right? For example, if they say trees are supposed to be planted a certain way and you remove them, you're going to get fined and you're going to have to pay that fine. And if you fight them and you take them to court, like this lady did, she lost in court. And not only did she have to pay the fine, but when she went to sell her home, the HOA is able to put a demand. So it's not a lien against the home or anything like that. But in the closing documents, they submit the bill to escrow, and escrow has to funnel money to them because that's the HOA where the home resides. Couldn't get around it. You can't get around it. And so if you live in an HOA, just know things like that. I know most people are not, fighting the HOAs or breaking all the rules or whatnot. But if you find yourself ever in that situation, just know HOAs have that ability. If there are fines owed, it may not be a lien against the house or anything like that. But if you ever go to sell that home, you will be paying any fines owed to the HOA through the sale of the home. And so again, home sellers, you're in an HOA. If there's any fines owed, you're going to pay, so one way or another. There's really a slim chance that you'll get out of it. And buyers, it is something to keep in mind, obviously, in addition to the financial information, but finding out as best as possible if the homeowner is in good standing with the HOA, because if not, there's a battle going on or something, that may be a home you want to stay away from because it could end up like we did, where we did not know what was going to happen to our buyers and where they were going to move to. So if you guys are looking for any more tips or anything else, if you want to hear some more stories about some of our crazy real estate deals, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it as well, and check out other videos for tips on how to sell your home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time and with the least amount of hassle.